Hey there. Tonight, we're talking about how a humble stonemason in 1400s Rome discovered that his simple craft held ancient secrets of prosperity, transforming his modest workshop into the foundation of generational wealth that would flow like the eternal Tiber River itself through his family line for centuries to come. Before you drift off, take a moment to like this video and subscribe, but only if this kind of transformative deep sleep hypnosis speaks to you. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and how many days in a row you've been on this manifestation and journey. I love seeing how committed this community is becoming. Now dim the lights, get comfortable, and let your mind absorb abundance. As the golden light of a summer evening in the year 1453 settles gently across the 7 hills of Rome, you find yourself drawn into a story that has been whispered through the corridors of time, a tale so quietly powerful that it has the ability to transform your very understanding of what it means to prosper in this world. The air is warm and thick with the scent of jasmine that climbs the ancient walls. And somewhere in the distance, you can hear the gentle crackling of a fire that seems to echo the rhythm of your own heartbeat as you settle deeper into comfort. In this moment, as you breathe slowly and naturally, allowing your body to release the tensions of the day, you might begin to notice how easily your mind can travel backward through the centuries, past wars and kingdoms, past the rise and fall of empires, to a time when Rome still carried the echoes of its ancient glory, when craftsmen worked with hands that understood the deep patience required to build something that would last forever. The cobblestone streets glisten slightly with the moisture of the evening air, and you can almost feel the warmth radiating from the stones that have absorbed sunlight for countless days, releasing it now in gentle waves that seem to carry with them the wisdom of ages. You find yourself naturally drawn to a narrow street that winds its way through the Trastevere district, where the sounds of hammers on stone create a rhythmic symphony that blends perfectly with the distant murmur of the Tiber River as it flows endlessly toward the sea. Here, in this quiet corner of the eternal city, something remarkable is about to unfold. Something that will reveal to you the ancient secrets of true abundance, the kind that grows slowly and steadily, like the mighty oak trees that have watched over this city for hundreds of years. As you allow yourself to sink deeper into this peaceful state, your breathing becoming slower and more rhythmic, you begin to understand that this is not just a story about the past, but a blueprint for your own transformation, a gentle guide that will whisper to your subconscious mind throughout the night, planting seeds of prosperity that will bloom in your waking life. The evening shadows grow longer as the sun begins its descent toward the western horizon, painting the ancient buildings in shades of amber and gold that seem to transform even the most humble structures into palaces worthy of emperors. And you notice how this quality of light has the power to reveal beauty that remains hidden during the harsh clarity of midday, the same way that quiet moments of reflection can illuminate opportunities and possibilities that escape notice during the busy rush of ordinary consciousness. The sounds of the city begin to change as well, the urgent bustle of commerce and trade giving way to more leisurely rhythms of evening conversations, children playing in narrow alleys, the distant laughter of friends sharing wine, and stories in tavernas that have served the same families for generations, creating an atmosphere that speaks of continuity and abundance, of a way of life that has proven its worth through centuries of testing and refinement. In this perfect setting for transformation, where the ancient and the eternal meet the immediate and personal, you prepare to discover how one man's dedication to excellence became a magnet for prosperity so powerful that it drew wealth and recognition from throughout the known world, creating ripples of abundance that spread far beyond his own life to touch countless others in ways that demonstrate the fundamental interconnectedness of all prosperity. The way that success in one area naturally creates opportunities and benefits that extend outward, like circles expanding across still water, touching shores that may seem distant but are connected through invisible currents that flow beneath the surface of ordinary awareness, carrying the energy of possibility from mind to mind, from heart to heart, from generation to generation, through the simple but profound power of excellence, pursued with patience and wisdom, and unwavering commitment to creating value that serves something greater than personal ambition alone. In the year 1453, when the morning mist still clung to the Tiber River like silk veils dancing in the gentle breeze, a stonemason named Marcello began each day with the same quiet ritual that his father had taught him, and his father's father before that, a practice so simple and so profound that it contained within it all the secrets of lasting wealth. You watch as he moves through his morning routine with the unhurried grace of someone who understands that true prosperity comes not from rushing toward wealth, but from allowing it to flow naturally through the consistent application of skill and dedication. And as you observe his movements, you feel your own body relaxing deeper into comfort, your muscles releasing tension with each breath, as if you too are learning to move with this same peaceful efficiency. Marcello's workshop sits nestled between two larger buildings on the Via della Lungara, its wooden door weathered to a soft gray that speaks of decades of faithful service. And as the early morning light filters through the small windows, it illuminates countless particles of stone dust that dance in the air like tiny golden stars, each one catching the light and reflecting it back in miniature rainbows that seem to whisper of abundance in every corner of the modest space. The walls are lined with tools that have been polished smooth by countless hours of use, chisels and hammers that have shaped stone into beauty for so many years that they seem to vibrate with their own inner wisdom. And as you notice the way each tool has its designated place, you begin to understand that organization itself is a form of magnetism, drawing opportunities toward itself through the simple power of readiness and preparation. The ritual that begins each workday demonstrates Marcello's deep understanding of principles that extend far beyond the mere mechanics of stone carving, principles that govern the flow of abundance in all its forms through the careful cultivation of consciousness that attracts prosperity as naturally as flowers attract sunlight. He begins by examining each piece of stone that will be worked that day, not hurrying through this inspection, but allowing his experienced hands to read the unique characteristics of each block, understanding that every piece of travertine, every fragment of marble, every chunk of volcanic tuff carries within its crystalline structure the accumulated wisdom of geological ages, compressed layers of time and pressure that have created something of beauty and permanence from the simple limestone that once lay beneath ancient seas. This patient attention to the raw materials of his craft reflects a deeper wisdom about the nature of all creation, the understanding that excellence begins with respect for the fundamental elements from which masterpieces are born, that lasting success cannot be built upon foundations of compromise or haste, but requires the same patient accumulation of right actions and wise choices that transforms simple stone into architectural treasures that outlast empires. As the morning light grows stronger and begins to fill the workshop with warm, golden illumination that makes every surface seem to glow with inner fire, Marcello selects his tools with the same careful consideration that marks every aspect of his approach to the craft, choosing each chisel and hammer, not randomly or out of habit, but based on an intimate understanding of how different implements will interact with the specific characteristics of the stone he plans to work, how the angle of the cutting edge will follow or resist the natural grain of the material, how the weight and balance of each tool will affect the rhythm and flow of the carving process itself. This attention to the relationship between tool and material, between technique and natural properties, demonstrates something profound about the nature of prosperity itself, the way that abundance flows most freely to those who understand the importance of using exactly the right approach for each specific situation, who take the time to match their methods to their circumstances, rather than trying to force unsuitable solutions onto problems that require more subtle and sophisticated responses. The stone that Marcello works with comes from quarries in the Alban Hills, travertine that has been forming in the earth for thousands of years, each piece carrying within its crystalline structure the patient accumulation of time and pressure that transforms simple limestone into something far more valuable. And as you watch him select each piece with careful consideration, running his weathered hands over the surface to feel for the natural grain and strength, you realize that he is teaching you something profound about the nature of wealth itself, how it too is formed through the patient accumulation of right actions and wise choices, compressed over time into something of lasting value that can support great beauty and strength. The way he handles the stone, with respect but not reverence, with confidence but not presumption, mirrors the attitude that attracts abundance most naturally. The understanding that prosperity is neither something to be worshipped nor something to be taken for granted, but rather a natural resource that responds to skillful cultivation and wise stewardship, flowing most freely to those who approach it with the proper combination of respect and expectation, humility and confidence. As the morning progresses and the workshop fills with the steady rhythm of chisel against stone, you notice how Marcello never hurries his work, never forces the stone to yield more quickly than it naturally wants to give. And in this patience, you begin to see reflected your own relationship with abundance, understanding that wealth, too, has its own natural rhythm, its own perfect timing that cannot be rushed, but only joined, like a dancer learning to move in harmony with music that has been playing since the beginning of time. The sound of his tools creates a meditation all its own, a repetitive percussion that seems to synchronize with your heartbeat. And you find yourself sinking even deeper into relaxation as you realize that this rhythm is teaching your subconscious mind something essential about persistence and consistency, about showing up day after day with the same dedication and trust that abundance will respond to genuine effort applied with wisdom and skill. The technique that Marcello employs in his carving demonstrates mastery that has been developed through decades of patient practice, each strike of chisel against stone guided by an understanding so deep and intuitive that it seems to bypass conscious thought entirely, flowing directly from vision to hand through pathways carved by years of repetition and refinement. You watch as he works a particularly challenging section of decorative molding, his movements so fluid and confident that the hard stone seems to yield as easily as clay to his guidance. Curls of ancient travertine falling away to reveal forms that appear to have been waiting inside the raw material for centuries, simply needing the right hands and eyes to liberate them from their rocky prison. This mastery did not develop overnight, but represents the accumulated result of countless hours of practice during which mistakes were made and corrected. Techniques were tested and refined. Understanding was deepened through the patient exploration of what works and what doesn't, what serves the vision and what merely serves the ego, creating a foundation of skill so solid and comprehensive that excellence becomes not an occasional achievement, but the natural expression of capabilities developed through years of dedicated effort. The clients who seek out Marcello's services represent a cross-section of Roman society, from wealthy merchants who have prospered in the spice and silk trades to minor nobility who wish to enhance their family palaces with stonework worthy of their elevated status, from church officials who commission decorative elements for chapels and monuments to successful craftsmen in other fields who recognize in his work the same commitment to excellence that has brought prosperity to their own endeavors. What unites all these diverse patrons is not their social standing or their financial resources, though both vary considerably, but rather their recognition that Marcello's work possesses qualities that transcend mere craftsmanship to enter the realm of art, creating pieces that somehow enhance the prosperity and prestige of their surroundings through the simple power of superior beauty and construction. Work that makes everything around it seem more valuable simply through association with excellence that cannot be counterfeited or duplicated through shortcuts or compromises. When the noon bells ring from the nearby church of Santa Maria, Marcello pauses in his work, not because he is tired, but because he has learned that rest, too, is part of creation, that the stone itself benefits from moments of stillness, where the stresses of carving can settle, and the natural strength of the material can reassert itself. And as he sits on a simple wooden stool in the doorway of his workshop, eating bread and cheese while watching the people of Rome go about their daily business, you can see in his eyes a contentment that speaks of someone who has discovered that true wealth lies not in having more than others, but in finding deep satisfaction in the work itself, in the knowledge that each day brings the opportunity to create something of lasting value that will serve and inspire others long after the hands that shaped it have returned to dust. The simple meal that constitutes Marcello's midday nourishment reflects the same principles that govern every aspect of his approach to life and work. Nothing elaborate or expensive, but everything of the highest quality obtainable within reasonable means. Bread baked that morning from grain grown in the fertile countryside surrounding Rome. Cheese aged to perfect ripeness by masters of their own craft. Wine pressed from grapes that have captured the essence of Italian sunshine and soil. Each element selected not for ostentation, but for genuine excellence, creating a dining experience that nourishes both body and spirit, while costing no more than inferior alternatives would demand from someone with less discriminating taste and knowledge. This approach to consumption demonstrates another aspect of prosperity consciousness, the understanding that abundance is not primarily about quantity, but about quality. Not about having more of everything, but about having exactly the right amount of exactly the right things, chosen with wisdom and appreciation rather than impulse and desire. As the afternoon light shifts and changes, filtering through the workshop windows and painting everything in warm, golden tones that seem to transform even the simplest objects into treasures, Marcello has arranged his workspace to take advantage of these changing light conditions, positioning different types of work where they will benefit most from the natural illumination that costs nothing but observation and planning. And in this simple efficiency, you see reflected the kind of wisdom that attracts wealth naturally. The understanding that abundance often comes not from acquiring more resources, but from using existing resources with greater skill and awareness, finding richness in what is already present rather than always seeking it somewhere else. The way light moves through his workshop throughout the day becomes a silent partner in his creative process, helping to reveal details that might otherwise remain hidden, illuminating textures and forms in ways that artificial lighting cannot match, demonstrating how attention to natural rhythms and cycles can enhance productivity and quality without requiring any additional investment beyond awareness and adaptation. The afternoon hours bring a different quality of energy to the workshop, a deeper focus that seems to emerge naturally as the day reaches its mature phase, and the distractions of morning activity give way to concentrated effort on the most demanding aspects of each project. You notice that Marcello reserves his most challenging work for these hours when his hands are fully warmed and flexible, when his eye is sharpest, and his understanding of each stone's characteristics has been refined through the morning's preliminary work, creating optimal conditions for breakthrough moments when technical skill and artistic vision combine to produce results that exceed even his own expectations. This strategic approach to organizing the workday reflects another principle of prosperity consciousness, the recognition that energy and attention are finite resources that must be allocated wisely to achieve maximum impact. That success often depends not on working harder, but on working smarter, aligning effort with natural rhythms and optimal conditions, rather than trying to force progress through sheer determination alone. The tools that Marcello uses reflect not just his technical requirements, but his philosophy of abundance. Each implement chosen for its ability to serve multiple functions while maintaining the highest standards of quality and durability, creating a collection that represents significant investment but pays dividends in efficiency, and results that more than justify the initial expense. His chisels are forged from the finest steel available, tempered to hold their edge through hours of demanding work, while remaining responsive to the subtle adjustments that separate masterful carving from mere competence. Their handles worn smooth by years of use, but maintained in perfect condition through daily cleaning and occasional refinishing, demonstrating the kind of care that extends the useful life of quality tools far beyond what cheaper alternatives could provide. This relationship with his tools reflects a broader understanding of the economics of excellence, the recognition that investing in quality ultimately costs less than repeatedly replacing inferior alternatives, that the premium paid for superiority is recovered many times over through enhanced performance and reliability that enables higher levels of achievement and corresponding rewards. The stones themselves tell stories of geological ages, compressed layers of ancient seas and prehistoric forests transformed through unimaginable pressures and spans of time into materials that combine beauty with durability in ways that continue to amaze even experienced craftsmen like Marcello, who has worked with travertine and marble for decades, but still discovers new qualities and possibilities in each piece that comes to his workshop. Some stones seem to carve themselves, their internal structure so perfectly aligned with his intentions that the chisel finds its path almost effortlessly, while others resist and challenge every cut, requiring patience and skill to coax beauty from materials that seem determined to remain rough and unformed. This variety in the raw materials of his craft has taught Marcello lessons that apply far beyond stone carving, understanding that abundance itself comes in many forms and requires different approaches depending on circumstances, that what works perfectly in one situation may be completely inappropriate in another, but that consistent principles of patience, skill, and respect for natural properties eventually overcome all obstacles and create opportunities from even the most challenging starting points. As the day draws toward evening and the sounds of the city begin to shift from the busy productivity of daylight hours to the more relaxed rhythms of approaching night, Marcello carefully cleans each of his tools and returns them to their designated places, a practice that might seem unnecessary to some, but which you recognize as another form of magnetism, creating an environment where excellence can flourish because everything needed is immediately available and ready for use. And as you watch him run a cloth over each chisel and hammer with the same care he gives to his finest work, you understand that this attention to detail is itself a form of prosperity consciousness, a way of honoring the tools and materials that make abundance possible, treating them with the respect that invites them to serve at their highest level. The workshop grows quiet as the last of the day's natural light fades, and Marcello lights a simple oil lamp that fills the space with warm, flickering illumination that dances across the stone surfaces and creates ever-shifting patterns of light and shadow. And in this peaceful atmosphere, you can feel your own consciousness settling into an even deeper state of receptivity, your mind becoming like the stone itself, patient and ready to receive the impressions that will shape it into something more beautiful and valuable. And you notice that your breathing has become so slow and regular that it seems to match the eternal rhythm of the city itself, the ancient pulse that has been beating steadily through all the centuries of Rome's existence, connecting you to something timeless and enduring that flows beneath the surface of daily life like an underground river of endless abundance that feeds all the springs of prosperity and success that bubble up unexpectedly in the lives of those who have learned to position themselves where these hidden currents run strongest and most consistent. As another dawn breaks over the eternal city, painting the sky in shades of rose and gold that reflect off the Tiber's gentle waters like scattered coins from some celestial treasure chest, you find yourself once again drawn into Marcello's world, a realm where time moves differently, where each day is not a race against the clock, but a patient meditation on the art of transformation, both of stone and of fortune itself. The morning air carries with it the scent of baking bread from nearby shops and the earthy smell of the river, creating an atmosphere that speaks of abundance in its most fundamental form. The simple prosperity of a city where life has been sustained and enriched for thousands of years through the accumulated efforts of countless individuals who understood that true wealth is built stone by stone, day by day, with unwavering dedication to excellence. The ritual that begins this new day demonstrates how small actions, repeated consistently over time, create foundations strong enough to support the greatest achievements. As Marcello moves through his workshop with the same methodical attention to preparation that has marked every morning of his professional life, checking each tool for sharpness and proper condition, examining the stones that await his attention, reviewing the projects that are in various stages of completion to determine the most productive use of the day's energy and focus. This morning routine, which might appear mundane to casual observation, actually represents a form of prosperity consciousness in action. The understanding that success is not built through dramatic gestures or occasional bursts of inspiration, but through the patient accumulation of right actions performed with consistency and care, creating momentum that builds gradually but inexorably toward breakthrough moments when years of preparation suddenly crystallize into opportunities for major advancement. You observe as Marcello examines a particularly large piece of travertine that arrived the previous evening, a block so massive that it required 4 oxen to transport it from the quarries. And as his experienced hands trace the natural veins and patterns in the stone, you can see that he is not simply assessing its potential for carving, but reading it like a master reads an ancient text, understanding intuitively where the stone wants to be cut and shaped, where its natural strength lies, and how to work with these inherent qualities rather than against them. This approach to his craft mirrors perfectly the way true abundance flows into a life, not through force or manipulation, but through careful attention to natural patterns and rhythms, through learning to recognize and align with the deeper currents that carry wealth effortlessly to those who know how to position themselves in harmony with these invisible but powerful streams. The stone itself represents more than just raw material for a commission. It embodies the patient work of geological ages, millions of years of mineral deposits laid down layer by layer in ancient seas, compressed and transformed through processes so gradual that they seem almost magical in their ability to create beauty and strength from simple limestone and organic sediments. As Marcello runs his hands over the surface, feeling for internal stresses and natural fault lines that will determine how the carving process unfolds. You begin to understand that he is connecting with something far older and more enduring than human civilization, tapping into natural forces that have been shaping the earth since long before the first cities were built, aligning his craft with principles that govern all forms of growth and transformation throughout the natural world. The commission that this stone will fulfill represents the largest project of Marcello's career, a decorative archway for the villa of a wealthy merchant who has heard of the stonemason's reputation for work that seems to improve with age, pieces that somehow become more beautiful and valuable as the years pass, developing a patina and presence that speaks of something beyond mere craftsmanship. The merchant, whose name is Antonio, and whose success in importing spices from distant lands has made him one of the wealthiest men in this quarter of Rome, chose Marcello not because his prices were the lowest, but because his previous work had demonstrated a quality that transcended mere decoration, creating pieces that seemed to enhance the prosperity of their surroundings, as if the very stones themselves carried a blessing that extended to all who lived and worked nearby. This reputation for creating work that attracts, rather than merely displays, wealth represents a secret that Marcello himself is only beginning to understand. The way that excellence in any field creates its own magnetic field, drawing opportunities and abundance toward itself through the simple power of being undeniably superior to anything else available in the marketplace. The Archway Commission will allow him to explore new possibilities in stone carving, techniques that push beyond traditional methods to create effects that seem almost alive, stone surfaces that catch and reflect light in ways that make the entire structure appear to breathe with inner vitality, transforming what might have been merely functional architecture into something that elevates the consciousness of everyone who passes beneath it. As Marcello begins the preliminary sketches for this ambitious project, drawing with charcoal on a piece of parchment that he has carefully prepared with his own hands, you notice that he approaches the design process with the same methodical patience he brings to everything else, never rushing toward a solution, but allowing the perfect form to emerge gradually from his deep understanding of both the stone's nature and the client's vision. The sketches themselves become works of art, detailed studies that capture not just the physical dimensions and decorative elements of the proposed archway, but something of its essential spirit, the way it will interact with light and shadow throughout the day, how it will frame and enhance the spaces it connects, what kind of emotional response it will evoke in those who experience it daily, over years and decades of use. The design process reveals another aspect of Marcello's mastery, his ability to envision completed projects so clearly and completely that he can anticipate and solve problems before they arise during the actual carving phase, saving time and materials while ensuring that the finished work will meet or exceed the client's expectations. This skill of visualization has been developed through years of experience with projects large and small, learning to hold entire compositions in mind while working on individual elements, understanding how each decorative detail contributes to the overall impact of the piece, and how changes in one area will affect the balance and harmony of the whole. Such comprehensive understanding cannot be acquired quickly, but represents the accumulated wisdom of a master craftsman who has learned to see beyond surface appearances to the underlying principles that govern all forms of aesthetic success. The mathematical precision that underlies even the most flowing and organic elements of Marcello's designs demonstrates his understanding that true beauty is not arbitrary or accidental, but follows natural laws that can be studied and applied. Proportions that echo the patterns found throughout the natural world, from the spiral of a nautilus shell to the branching structure of trees, from the geometric relationships that govern the orbits of planets to the internal architecture of flowers and crystals. These proportions, known to ancient philosophers and master builders, create resonances that speak to something deep in human consciousness, patterns that feel inherently right and pleasing even to those who have no formal knowledge of mathematics or design principles, creating work that attracts attention and appreciation at levels that transcend rational analysis. As the weeks pass and the archway begins to take shape under Marcello's patient hands, you witness the emergence of something extraordinary, a piece of work that seems to capture not just light and shadow, but the very essence of prosperity itself, each carved vine and leaf appearing so lifelike that they seem ready to burst into bloom. Each decorative element positioned with such perfect balance that the entire composition creates a sense of harmony and abundance that makes everyone who passes beneath it feel somehow wealthier, more optimistic, more aligned with their own potential for success. The curves and spirals that Marcello carves into the stone follow patterns that echo the natural flow of energy itself, the same spirals found in seashells and galaxies, in the unfurling of ferns and the movement of water, connecting the archway to these universal principles of growth and expansion that govern all forms of natural abundance. The carving process itself becomes a form of meditation, each striking of chisel against stone, guided by an understanding so deep that it seems to flow directly from some source of wisdom beyond conscious knowledge, creating rhythms that synchronize with heartbeat and breathing, establishing states of focused concentration that allow time to pass unnoticed while the work progresses with steady, methodical precision. You find yourself drawn into these rhythms as you observe Marcello at work, your own breathing naturally slowing and deepening as you watch the ancient travertine gradually transform under his skilled hands, revealing forms that appear to have been waiting inside the raw stone for centuries, simply needing the right vision and technique to liberate them from their crystalline prison. During this period of intense creative work, you notice that Marcello's own circumstances begin to shift in subtle but unmistakable ways, as if his dedication to excellence in his craft is creating a field of attraction around him that draws prosperity from unexpected sources. The baker across the street, impressed by the beauty taking shape in the stonemason's workshop, begins bringing Marcello fresh bread each morning, refusing payment, but somehow feeling that his gesture is connected to his own business's recent increase in customers. The wine merchant 2 doors down starts providing Marcello with better wine at lower prices, not as charity, but as recognition of something valuable that the craftsman brings to the neighborhood, an elevation of beauty and quality that benefits everyone in the vicinity. These seemingly small changes in his daily interactions reflect a principle that operates at all levels of abundance creation. The way that excellence in any area of life tends to enhance opportunities and relationships throughout one's entire existence, creating what modern researchers will eventually recognize as network effects, where improvements in one node of connection create benefits that ripple outward through entire systems of relationship and exchange. Marcello's reputation for superior craftsmanship is beginning to attract not just direct commissions, but indirect benefits that flow from his enhanced status as someone who creates genuine value, someone whose presence in the community represents an asset that others want to cultivate and maintain through their own generous actions and preferential treatment. More significantly, other wealthy Romans begin to take notice of the archway as it nears completion, and word spreads through the social networks that connect the city's prosperous families about this stonemason whose work possesses an almost magical quality of enhancement, making everything around it seem more valuable and desirable. Commissions begin to arrive at Marcello's workshop without any effort on his part to seek them out. Wealthy patrons, drawn by something they cannot quite name but recognize instinctively as superior to anything they have seen before. Work that promises not just beauty, but some intangible quality of good fortune that makes the investment seem like an opportunity rather than an expense. The phenomenon of demand creating itself, of excellence generating its own market without advertising or promotion, demonstrates another fundamental principle of abundance consciousness. The way that superior value naturally creates scarcity by being impossible to replicate through ordinary means, establishing conditions where buyers compete for access to the creator's services rather than the creator competing for buyers' attention. This reversal of the usual market dynamic represents the goal toward which all prosperity-minded individuals should strive, the point where their unique capabilities become so obviously superior that demand naturally exceeds supply, allowing prices to rise to levels that truly reflect the value being provided, while maintaining waiting lists of eager customers who are grateful for the opportunity to engage such exceptional service. As the archway project approaches completion, the daily routine of Marcello's workshop demonstrates how success builds upon itself through the consistent application of proven principles, each day's work adding another layer to the foundation of reputation and skill that supports ever greater achievements. The morning ritual of tool preparation and stone selection has remained constant even as the scale and complexity of projects have increased, maintaining connection with the fundamental practices that made initial success possible while adapting to meet the greater demands that such success inevitably brings. This balance between consistency and growth, between honoring proven methods and embracing new challenges, characterizes the approach to abundance that sustains prosperity over decades, rather than allowing it to peak and decline through overreach or complacency. The completion of Antonio's archway represents more than the fulfillment of a single commission. It serves as a demonstration piece that showcases Marcello's capabilities to the broader community of potential patrons, a permanent advertisement for his services that will continue attracting attention and generating opportunities for years to come. The strategic value of creating work that functions simultaneously as artistic achievement and marketing tool reflects another aspect of prosperity consciousness, the understanding that the most effective promotion comes not through selling techniques, but through visible proof of superior results. Work that speaks for itself with such obvious excellence that no additional persuasion becomes necessary. As the summer evening light filters through his workshop windows, painting everything in the warm, golden tones that have become a signature of his working environment, Marcello continues his methodical carving, each strike of chisel against stone guided by decades of experience, but also by something else, an intuitive understanding of form and proportion that seems to channel abundance itself through his hands and into the waiting stone. You can see in his movements the same quality that marks all master craftsmen throughout history, a kind of flowing efficiency where no motion is wasted, no effort applied without purpose, creating a rhythm of work that becomes its own form of meditation, a state of consciousness where the boundaries between creator and creation dissolve, leaving only the pure expression of skill and vision, working in perfect harmony with natural materials and universal principles of beauty and proportion. The archway, when finally completed, stands as something more than mere decoration, more than even superior craftsmanship, embodying instead a principle of abundance made manifest in stone, a physical demonstration of what becomes possible when patience, skill, and vision combine with unwavering dedication to excellence. As Antonio the merchant stands before the finished work, you can see in his face not just satisfaction with a commission well executed, but recognition of something that transcends the monetary value of the transaction. Understanding that he has acquired not just an archway, but a focal point for prosperity itself. A permanent reminder carved in stone that excellence attracts abundance as naturally as flowers attract bees, as inevitably as rivers flow towards the sea, creating around itself an atmosphere of success and good fortune that will enhance every aspect of his family's life for generations to come. As the reputation of Marcello's extraordinary archway spreads throughout Rome like ripples expanding across the surface of a still pond, carried by the conversations of servants and merchants, nobles and craftsmen, scholars and priests who have witnessed the transformation that seems to occur in the very atmosphere surrounding work of such exceptional quality, you find yourself witnessing the mysterious process by which true excellence creates its own momentum, drawing recognition and opportunity toward itself with the same natural inevitability that the sun draws the morning mist from the surface of the Tiber River. The autumn of 1453 brings with it a subtle change in the atmosphere of the city, a sense that something significant is shifting beneath the surface of daily life. And nowhere is this more apparent than in the steady stream of distinguished visitors who now make their way to Marcello's humble workshop, drawn by reports of work that somehow transcends the ordinary boundaries of craftsmanship to touch something deeper and more enduring. The first of these visitors arrives on a morning when the air carries the crisp scent of fallen leaves and the distant smoke of hearth fires, when the light has taken on that particular quality of clarity that comes with changing seasons, illuminating everything with sharp-edged brilliance that reveals details usually hidden in the softer light of summer. You observe as Cardinal Alessandro Farnese, one of the most powerful and discerning patrons of the arts in all of Rome, arrives at the workshop, not in his usual elaborate carriage, but on foot. Having walked the narrow streets of Trastevere, specifically to examine for himself this stone carving that has become the subject of so much sophisticated conversation among the city's cultural elite. The cardinal, whose family has been collecting art for generations, and whose eye for quality is legendary throughout Italy, approaches the archway with the measured steps of someone who has learned to recognize genuine excellence amid the many pretenders that compete for attention in a city where art and politics intersect at every level of society. Standing before Marcello's completed work, Cardinal Farnese remains silent for several long minutes, his trained gaze taking in every detail of the composition, every subtle play of light and shadow that the stonemason has coaxed from the ancient travertine. And you can see in his expression the same recognition that has marked the faces of all who truly understand the difference between mere decoration and work that carries within it the living essence of beauty itself. The cardinal's trained eye, educated by decades of exposure to the finest works that money and influence can acquire, recognizes immediately that he is witnessing something rare and precious. Work that represents not just superior technical skill, but that ineffable quality that separates masterpieces from even the most competent examples of conventional craftsmanship. When the cardinal finally speaks, his voice carries the quiet authority of someone accustomed to being heard and obeyed, but also a note of genuine reverence that few works of art have ever inspired in his experienced and somewhat jaded perspective on human creativity. "Master Marcello," he says, and you notice that he uses the title of respect without any trace of condescension, despite the difference in their social stations. "I have seen the finest works that Florence and Venice have to offer. I have stood before masterpieces that have cost more than most men earn in a lifetime. But I have never encountered anything that possesses quite this quality of, how shall I put it, of fundamental rightness, as if the very stones themselves have been waiting centuries for you to reveal their true nature." These words, spoken by someone whose approval carries the weight of institutional authority and refined taste, represent more than mere compliment. They constitute recognition at the highest levels that Marcello has achieved something truly exceptional, something that transcends the usual categories of artistic achievement to enter that rarefied realm where craft becomes art, and art becomes something approaching the transcendent. The conversation that follows reveals the cardinal's deep understanding, not just of artistic merit, but of the broader cultural and economic forces that determine which works survive to influence future generations, and which disappear into the anonymity of historical footnotes. He recognizes in Marcello's archway not just current excellence, but the kind of timeless quality that will continue to inspire and elevate human consciousness long after the immediate fashions and preferences of their era have been forgotten. Work that possesses the durability of vision to serve as a bridge between the wisdom of the past and the possibilities of the future. This long-term perspective, this ability to recognize work that will maintain and even increase its value over decades and centuries, represents one of the key characteristics that distinguish true connoisseurs from mere consumers of luxury goods. The understanding that genuine masterpieces function as repositories of cultural value that transcend their immediate aesthetic or decorative purposes. The commission that emerges from this conversation represents not just an opportunity for financial advancement, but recognition at the highest levels of Roman society that Marcello has achieved something truly exceptional, something that transcends the usual categories of artistic achievement to enter that rarefied realm where craft becomes art, and art becomes something approaching the divine. Cardinal Farnese wishes to commission a complete renovation of the interior courtyard of his family's palazzo, a project that would normally be entrusted to one of the established workshops that have been serving Rome's noble families for generations. But his encounter with the archway has convinced him that true genius cannot be replicated through traditional channels, that what Marcello possesses is something unique and irreplaceable that must be nurtured and supported regardless of conventional expectations. The Palazzo project represents a quantum leap in both scale and prestige, requiring not just individual decorative elements, but a comprehensive design approach that will transform an entire architectural space into a unified work of art, creating environments that enhance and elevate every activity that takes place within their boundaries. The courtyard itself measures 40 feet square and rises 4 stories to an open sky, surrounded by arched galleries that provide access to the various chambers and halls of the family residence, creating opportunities for sculptural and decorative interventions at multiple levels and scales. Each element contributing to an overall composition that must function harmoniously while serving the practical needs of daily life in one of Rome's most important households. As Marcello listens to the cardinal's vision for the courtyard project, you can see in his face not excitement or nervous ambition, but the same calm consideration that he brings to every aspect of his work, the understanding that this opportunity, magnificent as it is, represents not a destination, but another step along a path that he has been walking steadily for decades, trusting that dedication to excellence would eventually be recognized and rewarded, but never allowing that expectation to distract him from the work itself. His response to the cardinal's offer demonstrates the wisdom that has guided his entire career, accepting the commission not with gratitude that borders on servility, but with the quiet confidence of someone who knows his own worth and understands that true prosperity flows most freely to those who neither chase it desperately nor fear its absence. The financial terms that Cardinal Farnese proposes for the courtyard project represent more money than Marcello has ever seen in his life, enough to purchase his own workshop building rather than continuing to rent, enough to hire assistants and expand his capabilities, enough to secure not just his own comfort, but the future prosperity of generations yet unborn. The sum mentioned exceeds by several multiples the total income that Marcello has earned throughout his entire career to this point, representing not just compensation for future work, but recognition of the value that his existing reputation and proven capabilities bring to any project fortunate enough to benefit from his involvement. Yet as you observe his reaction to these extraordinary numbers, you notice that his primary emotion is not relief or excitement, but a deep sense of satisfaction. The feeling of someone who has finally been recognized for what he has always known himself to be worth, whose true value has at last been acknowledged by the world around him in terms that match his own inner understanding of his capabilities and contributions. This moment of recognition represents something more than personal validation. It demonstrates a fundamental principle of abundance consciousness, the way that true value eventually finds its own market, regardless of temporary circumstances or apparent obstacles. Creating situations where quality commands premium prices, not through aggressive negotiation, but through the simple scarcity that results when demand for excellence exceeds the supply of those capable of delivering it. Marcello's journey from struggling craftsman to sought-after master illustrates how patient dedication to continuous improvement eventually reaches a tipping point where the laws of supply and demand begin working in favor of the producer rather than the consumer, creating the kind of seller's market that allows prices to rise naturally to levels that truly reflect the value being provided. The contract negotiations that follow reveal Cardinal Farnese's sophisticated understanding of how to structure agreements that serve the interests of both parties while ensuring optimal results for the project itself. Rather than simply agreeing to pay a fixed sum for completed work, he proposes a more complex arrangement that includes advance payments to fund the acquisition of materials and tools, performance bonuses tied to specific milestones and quality standards, and even profit-sharing provisions that will give Marcello ongoing financial interest in the long-term appreciation and reputation of the completed courtyard. This approach demonstrates the Cardinal's recognition that extraordinary results require extraordinary commitment, that the usual transactional relationship between patron and craftsman must be enhanced and enriched to create incentives for performance that exceeds conventional expectations. The months that follow the signing of the Cardinal's contract demonstrate something profound about the nature of abundance and how it flows into a life that has been properly prepared to receive it. Like water finding its natural level, or seeds planted in fertile ground finally bursting into bloom after a long winter of patient waiting. Other commissions begin to arrive not through Marcello's efforts to seek them out, but as natural consequences of the elevated status that the Cardinal's patronage has conferred upon him. Wealthy families throughout Rome competing with each other to engage the services of the stonemason whose work has been deemed worthy of the Farnese collection. Each new project more prestigious and lucrative than the last, creating a momentum of success that seems to build upon itself with mathematical precision. The phenomenon of success, attracting success, of recognition, creating demand that generates further recognition in an ascending spiral of opportunity and achievement, demonstrates another fundamental principle of prosperity consciousness, the way that excellence in any field creates its own gravitational pull, drawing related opportunities toward itself through the simple magnetic force of proven capability and established reputation. Marcello's workshop begins to function not just as a center of production, but as a destination for anyone seeking the finest stone carving available in Rome, creating situations where potential clients compete for his attention rather than the reverse, fundamentally altering the power dynamics that govern commercial relationships in ways that allow prices and standards to rise simultaneously. More importantly, you notice that Marcello's approach to this sudden abundance demonstrates the same wisdom that guided his patient years of building skills and reputation, neither hoarding his new wealth out of fear that it might disappear, nor spending it carelessly as if it were limitless, but instead investing it thoughtfully in ways that will ensure its continued growth, while also enhancing his capacity to create even more beautiful work. He purchases the finest tools available, not out of vanity, but because superior instruments enable superior results, acquiring chisels forged from the best steel that money can buy, hammers balanced with mathematical precision to reduce fatigue and increase accuracy, measuring devices crafted with tolerances that allow for precision previously impossible to achieve with ordinary equipment. The workshop itself undergoes transformation as Marcello reinvests his growing income in improvements that enhance both productivity and quality, installing better lighting systems that allow detailed work to continue during shorter winter days, constructing specialized workbenches designed to support the specific requirements of different types of carving, creating storage systems that protect valuable materials while keeping them easily accessible for immediate use. Each enhancement represents not mere luxury, but strategic investment in capabilities that will enable even higher levels of achievement, creating upward spirals where improved resources generate improved results that justify further investment in even better resources, establishing patterns of growth that become self-sustaining through their own demonstrated success. The acquisition of rare stones from distant quarries opens new possibilities for creative expression, as Marcello gains access to materials that few other craftsmen have even seen, let alone worked with, stones that carry within their crystalline structures the accumulated beauty of geological processes from around the known world. Marble from the Greek islands brings with it the pure white clarity that has inspired sculptors since ancient times, while Egyptian granite offers hardness and color variations that create opportunities for decorative inlays of unprecedented sophistication. Each new material requires the development of specialized techniques and tools, expanding Marcello's repertoire of skills while also creating unique capabilities that further differentiate his services from those of potential competitors. Perhaps most significantly, Marcello begins to study the mathematical principles underlying classical proportions, acquiring manuscripts and treatises that reveal the numerical relationships that govern all forms of natural beauty, from the spiral growth patterns of plants to the harmonic frequencies that create musical consonants, understanding that true mastery requires not just skilled hands, but an educated mind that can comprehend the deeper patterns that connect all forms of aesthetic excellence. This theoretical foundation enhances his intuitive understanding of what makes compositions pleasing and harmonious, providing intellectual framework that supports and extends his natural artistic sensibilities, while opening possibilities for innovations that combine traditional craftsmanship with insights derived from systematic study of universal principles. As the winter solstice approaches and the days grow short and cold, you find yourself standing with Marcello in his expanded workshop, now occupying 3 connected buildings and employing 2 carefully chosen assistants who share his dedication to excellence and his understanding that wealth is not something to be extracted from customers, but something to be created through the generous application of skill and vision. The workshop glows warmly in the light of multiple oil lamps, their flames dancing across the surfaces of works in various stages of completion, each piece bearing the unmistakable signature of a master who has learned to channel abundance through his hands as naturally as rivers channel water toward the sea. And you realize that you are witnessing something more than mere professional success, but the physical manifestation of a principle that applies to all forms of prosperity, the way that patient dedication to excellence eventually creates its own gravity, drawing opportunities and recognition and financial reward as inevitably as the earth draws falling rain. In the spring of 1454, as the cherry trees that line the Via Julia burst into clouds of pale pink blossoms that seem to float like dreams against the ancient Roman sky, and as the warming air carries with it the promise of renewed life and expanded possibilities that comes with every turning of the seasons, you witness the unfolding of Marcello's most ambitious undertaking yet, a commission that will test not only his skills as a craftsman, but his wisdom as a steward of the extraordinary abundance that has begun to flow through his life like the Tiber River in spring flood, powerful and life-giving, but requiring careful channels to direct its force toward the most beneficial purposes. The commission comes from Pope Nicholas V himself, who has heard of the stonemason's work through the enthusiastic recommendations of Cardinal Farnese, and wishes to engage Marcello's services for the renovation of several chambers within the Vatican itself, a project that represents not just the pinnacle of artistic recognition, but an opportunity to create work that will inspire and elevate the human spirit for centuries to come. The papal summons arrives on a morning when the workshop is filled with the familiar sounds of chisels against stone and the quiet conversations of apprentices learning their craft under Marcello's patient guidance, creating an atmosphere of productive harmony that has become the signature of his expanded operations. The messenger who brings the invitation wears the distinctive colors of the papal household and carries himself with the dignity befitting someone who serves the highest earthly authority in Christendom. Yet his manner toward Marcello demonstrates the respect that excellence commands, regardless of social distinctions, understanding that true mastery creates its own nobility that transcends conventional hierarchies of birth and position. The scroll he presents bears not just the papal seal, but language that acknowledges Marcello not as a mere craftsman seeking patronage, but as an artist whose services are requested rather than commanded, whose reputation has reached such levels that even the Vatican feels privileged to engage his capabilities. As you observe Marcello's first meeting with the papal architects and advisors in the magnificent halls of the Vatican, surrounded by treasures accumulated over centuries of collecting and commissioning by the most powerful institution in the medieval world, you notice that his years of success have transformed him not into someone different, but into a more complete version of himself. His natural humility and dedication to excellence, now supported by an unshakable confidence in his abilities and worth that radiates from him like warmth from a well-tended fire. He listens to the requirements and specifications for the Vatican project with the same careful attention he has always brought to every commission, asking questions that demonstrate not just technical competence, but a deep understanding of how the finished work will function within its larger context. how it will serve not just as decoration, but as a permanent contribution to the spiritual and cultural life of the eternal city. The chambers that will be transformed under Marcello's guidance include the private study where the Pope receives important visitors and conducts the most sensitive business of the Church, the ceremonial hall where significant announcements are made to assembled dignitaries, and the chapel where daily prayers are offered for the welfare of all Christendom. Each space requiring different approaches and techniques, but all unified by the need to create environments that inspire contemplation and elevate consciousness toward recognition of beauty and truth as reflections of deeper spiritual realities. The challenge lies not just in executing individual decorative elements, but in creating coherent aesthetic environments that enhance the sacred functions they are designed to serve. Work that must satisfy both practical requirements and transcendent aspirations, while maintaining harmony with existing architectural features that cannot be modified. The scope of the Vatican project requires Marcello to expand his operations once again, and you watch as he carefully selects additional assistants, not merely for their technical skills, though these are certainly important, but for their character and dedication, understanding that the energy and intention that each person brings to the work becomes embedded in the stone itself, creating resonances that will influence everyone who encounters the finished pieces for generations to come. His workshop has now become something approaching a school, where young craftsmen learn not just the techniques of stone carving, but the deeper principles that govern all forms of creative excellence. The understanding that true wealth comes not from extracting the maximum profit from each transaction, but from creating value so genuine and lasting that people are grateful to pay for it, even at premium prices. The selection process for new apprentices reveals Marcello's sophisticated understanding of the human qualities that support exceptional achievement, looking beyond obvious technical abilities to identify candidates who demonstrate patience, attention to detail, willingness to accept correction, and most importantly, genuine love for the work itself, rather than mere ambition for the rewards that mastery might bring. He understands that skills can be taught to anyone with adequate intelligence and dedication, but that the attitudes and approaches that separate good work from great work must be cultivated through years of example and guidance, requiring apprentices who possess the humility to learn and the persistence to continue growing throughout their entire careers. Each new member of his workshop undergoes a probationary period during which their character and commitment are evaluated as carefully as their technical progress, ensuring that the culture of excellence that has made his success possible will be preserved and transmitted to future generations. The financial rewards of the Vatican Commission dwarf even the generous terms that Cardinal Farnese provided, representing sums that would have seemed impossible to Marcello just a few years earlier. Yet you observe that his relationship with this abundance demonstrates the same wisdom that has characterized every aspect of his rise to prominence, neither taking it for granted nor allowing it to distract him from the work that has made it possible. Instead, he invests his wealth in ways that enhance both his immediate capabilities and his long-term prospects, purchasing property throughout Rome not as a speculative venture, but as permanent workshops and warehouses where his expanded operations can continue to grow. Acquiring rare books on architecture and geometry that deepen his understanding of the principles underlying his craft. Even commissioning works from other master craftsmen whose different skills complement and enhance his own abilities. The real estate investments that Marcello makes during this period of abundant cash flow demonstrate his understanding of wealth preservation and multiplication principles that extend far beyond his immediate profession, recognizing that stone carving, no matter how successful, represents just one stream of income that should be supported and protected by other sources of return that do not depend entirely upon his personal labor and attention. The properties he acquires are chosen not just for their immediate utility, but for their long-term appreciation potential. Buildings located in areas of Rome that are experiencing growth and development, structures that can serve multiple purposes while generating rental income from tenants who benefit from association with his renowned workshop operations. This diversification strategy protects his growing wealth against the uncertainties that affect all forms of personal service businesses, while creating additional resources that can be reinvested in further expansion of his core capabilities. The rare manuscripts and treatises that Marcello acquires during his studies represent another form of investment, intellectual capital that enhances his understanding of the theoretical foundations underlying practical craftsmanship, providing access to knowledge that has been accumulated over centuries by master builders and architects, whose work continues to inspire and instruct long after their deaths. These texts, many of them hand-copied by monks in distant monasteries, contain not just technical information, but philosophical insights into the relationships between mathematical principles and aesthetic beauty, between spiritual aspirations and physical manifestations, between individual creativity and universal patterns that govern all forms of natural and artistic harmony. The cost of acquiring such rare knowledge represents significant expense, but Marcello recognizes that true mastery requires investment in understanding as well as tools and materials, that the mind of the craftsman must be educated and refined if the hands are to achieve their highest possible expression of skill and vision. As the summer progresses and the Vatican project advances through its various phases, you notice that something remarkable is happening, not just to Marcello's financial circumstances, but to his entire presence in the world. The way that his success seems to create opportunities and benefits for everyone around him. From the quarry workers, who now enjoy steady employment, providing stone for his projects, to the apprentices who are learning skills that will support them and their families throughout their working lives. His workshop has become a center of prosperity that radiates outward through the community, creating what economists centuries later will recognize as a multiplier effect, where wealth generated in one location spreads naturally through the surrounding economic ecosystem, lifting all boats on the rising tide of genuine value creation. The suppliers who provide materials for Marcello's projects benefit from the steady demand and premium prices that his reputation enables him to command, creating relationships that go beyond simple commercial transactions to become partnerships in excellence, where everyone involved takes pride in contributing to works of lasting beauty and significance. The stone quarries that produce his raw materials invest in better extraction and finishing techniques to meet his increasingly sophisticated requirements, developing capabilities that serve other customers as well, while establishing quality standards that elevate the entire industry. The tool makers who supply his equipment receive challenges to create implements of unprecedented precision and durability, pushing their own skills and understanding toward new levels of achievement that benefit craftsmen throughout the region. More subtly, but perhaps more importantly, you begin to see that Marcello's approach to success is teaching those around him something profound about the nature of abundance itself. The way that wealth flows most freely to those who understand it, not as something to be hoarded or flaunted, but as a form of energy that must be kept in constant circulation to maintain its vitality and power. He pays his workers generously, not out of charity, but out of recognition that their prosperity directly enhances his own. That motivated and well-compensated craftsmen produce work of higher quality, which in turn attracts more prestigious commissions and higher fees, creating virtuous cycles where generosity becomes its own form of investment, paying dividends that far exceed what mere calculation would suggest. The workshop environment that emerges from this philosophy of shared prosperity becomes a model of productive harmony, where individual excellence serves collective success, where each person's advancement contributes to opportunities for everyone else, where competition gives way to collaboration in pursuit of standards that no individual could achieve working alone. The apprentices learn not just technical skills, but prosperity consciousness itself, understanding that their own future success depends not on competing with their teachers and fellow students, but on contributing to collective capabilities that create value for everyone involved. This approach to training and development produces graduates who carry Marcello's influence far beyond his immediate workshop, spreading principles of excellence and abundance throughout the crafts community as they establish their own workshops and train their own apprentices. The centerpiece of the Vatican project is a monumental fountain that will grace the central courtyard of the papal apartments, a work so complex and ambitious that several established workshops declined to bid on it, understanding that the technical challenges involved would require innovations that might not be possible within the traditional methods of stone carving that have served Roman craftsmen for centuries. The fountain must not only function perfectly as a hydraulic system, providing reliable water flow through multiple levels and channels, but must also serve as a work of art that inspires contemplation and wonder in everyone who encounters it, creating aesthetic experiences worthy of the sacred context while demonstrating technical mastery that reflects the glory and power of the Church itself. Yet Marcello approaches these challenges with the same methodical confidence that has characterized all his work, studying the engineering principles involved, experimenting with new techniques for joining massive stone elements, consulting with hydraulic experts who understand the mathematics of water flow and pressure distribution, even traveling to Florence to examine the revolutionary works of Donatello and Ghiberti, understanding that true mastery requires continuous learning and adaptation rather than simple repetition of established formulas. The research and development process that precedes actual construction demonstrates his commitment to excellence over expedience, his willingness to invest time and resources in understanding every aspect of the project, rather than relying on traditional approaches that might prove inadequate for such ambitious requirements. The innovations that emerge from this intensive preparation phase represent genuine advances in the art and science of stone carving, techniques for creating joints so precise that they become invisible even under close inspection, methods for carving flowing curves that seem to defy the natural properties of stone, approaches to surface finishing that create textures and patterns impossible to achieve through conventional means. These technical breakthroughs not only serve the immediate requirements of the Vatican fountain, but establish new possibilities for all future projects, expanding the vocabulary of expression available to stone carvers throughout the region, while enhancing Marcello's reputation as an innovator who pushes beyond established boundaries to achieve results that seemed impossible until he demonstrated their feasibility. The fountain, when completed, represents not just a technical triumph, but a new standard for what becomes possible when unlimited resources meet unlimited skill and vision. Its cascading waters creating music that seems to harmonize with the heartbeat of the city itself. Its carved figures so lifelike that they appear ready to step down from their stone pedestals and walk among the living. Its overall composition so perfect in its proportions that it makes everything around it seem more beautiful simply by association. The water flows through multiple levels and channels, each designed to create specific acoustic effects that combine into complex harmonies that change subtly throughout the day as water pressure and flow rates respond to natural variations in the supply system, creating an ever-changing symphony that never becomes monotonous or predictable. Yet perhaps the most remarkable aspect of this masterwork is not its aesthetic achievement, but its demonstration of a principle that applies to all forms of human endeavor. The way that pushing beyond the boundaries of what seems possible in one area of life creates expansions of possibility in every other area as well, opening doors that had previously remained invisible, creating opportunities that could never have been anticipated from a more limited perspective. The success of the Vatican fountain establishes Marcello's reputation not just as a master craftsman, but as an innovator and problem solver whose capabilities extend far beyond traditional stone carving to encompass engineering, hydraulics, acoustics, and even the psychological effects of environmental design on human consciousness and behavior. The completion of the Vatican project marks a transformation in how Marcello is perceived, not just by potential clients, but by colleagues throughout the artistic community. Recognition that he has achieved something that transcends normal categories of professional accomplishment to enter the realm of cultural significance, where individual achievement becomes part of the permanent heritage of human creativity and excellence. The fountain becomes a destination for visitors from throughout Europe, a required stop for anyone seeking to understand the current state of artistic achievement in Rome, creating a form of permanent advertising that continues generating opportunities and recognition long after the original commission has been completed and paid for. As autumn returns to Rome and the fountain project achieves its final completion, you find yourself standing with Marcello in the papal courtyard at twilight. The sound of falling water creating a natural accompaniment to the gentle crackling of torches that illuminate the newly carved stone surfaces. And you realize that you are witnessing something more than the successful completion of another commission, but the physical manifestation of what becomes possible when someone discovers their true calling and commits to it completely, allowing their natural talents to expand and develop through years of patient practice until they become conduits for a kind of creative abundance that transforms not only their own lives, but the lives of everyone they touch. The fountain stands as permanent testimony to this principle, its flowing waters a reminder that prosperity, like water, seeks its own level and flows naturally toward those who have prepared themselves to receive it through the disciplined development of genuine skill and unwavering dedication to excellence that serves something greater than personal ambition alone. As the bells of Rome ring in the dawn of a new year in 1455, marking not just the passage of time, but the completion of a transformation that has taken Marcello from obscurity to recognition as one of the finest craftsmen in all of Italy. And as the first light of this new beginning illuminates the workshops and courtyards where his influence has created centers of excellence that will continue producing beauty long after his own hands have grown still, you find yourself drawn into the quiet moments of reflection that successful people often experience when they pause to contemplate the journey that has brought them to their current position of prosperity and influence. The workshop, now expanded to encompass an entire block of buildings in Trastevere, hums with the productive activity of nearly 20 skilled craftsmen working on commissions that arrive daily from throughout Europe. Wealthy patrons in distant cities, having heard reports of Roman stonework that possesses qualities so exceptional that transportation costs and delays become irrelevant when measured against the permanent enhancement that such pieces bring to any collection or architectural setting. The morning routine that begins this day of new possibilities demonstrates how Marcello has maintained connection with the fundamental practices that made his success possible, even as the scale and complexity of his operations have expanded far beyond what he could have imagined during his years of solitary struggle in a single-room workshop with a handful of well-worn tools. He still rises before dawn to spend quiet time examining the stones that will be worked that day, still begins each project with the same careful consideration that marked his approach when every commission represented a matter of survival rather than choice among abundant opportunities, still approaches each piece of raw material with the respect and attention that honor both its natural properties and its potential for transformation into something of lasting beauty and value. Yet as you observe Marcello moving through his expanded domain, you notice that success has not changed his fundamental nature, but has instead allowed it to express itself more completely. His natural generosity now supported by resources that enable him to act upon every impulse toward kindness and improvement. His inherent wisdom now backed by experience that confirms the value of patience and long-term thinking over quick profits and short-sighted strategies. The transformation is not one of character, but of capacity. The same essential qualities that guided his early development, now operating at scales that affect entire communities and influence cultural developments that will shape artistic expression for generations to come. His success has revealed, rather than altered, his true nature, providing resources that allow his deepest values and highest aspirations to manifest in ways that serve not just his own advancement, but the elevation of everyone whose lives intersect with his expanding sphere of influence. The apprentices who now learn their craft under Marcello's guidance understand that they are receiving something more valuable than mere technical training, that the master's teachings encompass principles of prosperity, consciousness that extend far beyond the boundaries of stone carving to touch every aspect of a craftsman's relationship with abundance and success. They watch as he demonstrates not just how to select the proper chisel for each type of cut, but how to approach each commission as an opportunity to exceed expectations. How to see in every client not just a source of payment, but a partner in creating something of lasting beauty and value. How to understand that reputation is built through accumulated excellence rather than brilliant individual performances. That sustainable prosperity comes from consistency rather than occasional inspiration. The daily lessons that unfold in the workshop environment create a living laboratory where theoretical principles of abundance consciousness are tested and refined through practical application, where young craftsmen learn to recognize the subtle signs that distinguish work driven by genuine love of excellence from work motivated primarily by desire for reward, where the connection between inner attitude and outer results becomes apparent through direct observation and personal experience. These lessons cannot be taught through words alone, but must be absorbed through prolonged exposure to examples of prosperity, consciousness in action. Through watching how master craftsmen approach problems and opportunities, how they interact with clients and suppliers, how they balance immediate needs with long-term goals, how they maintain standards of quality even when shortcuts would be easier and more profitable. The workshop itself has become something approaching a temple of abundance, its carefully organized spaces demonstrating the principles that attract wealth as naturally as gardens attract sunlight. Every tool in its designated place, every work surface clean and ready for immediate use, every corner designed to facilitate the smooth flow of creative energy from conception through completion. You notice how the arrangement of the space itself teaches lessons about prosperity, the way that order creates efficiency, efficiency creates quality, quality creates reputation, and reputation creates demand that allows prices to rise naturally, without any need for aggressive marketing or competitive pressure. The work selling itself through its obvious superiority to anything else available in the marketplace. The physical environment that Marcello has created reflects his understanding that abundance consciousness must be supported by external conditions that align with internal aspirations, that success requires not just skilled hands and trained minds, but surroundings that inspire excellence and facilitate the highest possible expression of talent and vision. The workshop lighting has been designed to provide optimal illumination for detailed work at all hours of the day, with windows positioned to take advantage of natural light, while oil lamps and candles are arranged to supplement solar illumination during shorter winter days or extended working sessions that continue into evening hours. The workbenches have been constructed to exactly the right heights and proportions for different types of carving. with specialized tools and holding devices that support precision work while reducing fatigue and strain that could compromise quality or limit productive capacity. More significantly, you begin to understand that Marcello has discovered something that few people ever learn about the true nature of wealth. The way that money is not really the goal, but rather the natural byproduct of value creation, flowing as inevitably toward those who consistently produce excellence as water flows downhill toward the sea. His financial success has reached levels that would have seemed impossible to imagine during his years of apprenticeship and struggle. His workshop now generating revenue that exceeds the annual budgets of small cities. Yet this abundance serves primarily as confirmation of principles rather than as an end in itself, proof that the universe responds to genuine service with rewards that match the value provided. That prosperity is not a matter of luck or manipulation, but the logical result of aligning one's efforts with the deeper patterns that govern all forms of natural growth and expansion. The diversification of Marcello's investments during this period demonstrates his sophisticated understanding of wealth preservation and multiplication, recognizing that even the most successful personal service business carries risks that can be mitigated through careful allocation of resources across different types of assets and income streams. The properties he has acquired throughout Rome now generate substantial rental income that provides financial security independent of his workshop operations, while also appreciating in value as the city continues to grow and develop around centers of artistic and commercial activity. These real estate holdings represent not just financial investments, but strategic positions that enhance his influence and reputation, while providing platforms for further expansion of his cultural and economic impact. The commissions that now arrive at Marcello's workshop represent not just financial opportunities, but invitations to leave permanent marks of beauty upon the world, to create works that will inspire and elevate human consciousness long after their creator has passed from this earth into whatever realm awaits those who have used their talents in service of something greater than personal ambition. Kings and princes, merchants and scholars, church officials and wealthy citizens throughout the known world now compete for the privilege of engaging his services, understanding that to possess a piece carved by his hands is to own something that will appreciate not just in monetary value, but in cultural significance as the decades and centuries pass, becoming treasured heirlooms that families preserve and celebrate across generations. The international scope of demand for Marcello's work demonstrates how genuine excellence transcends geographical boundaries and cultural differences, creating universal recognition that operates according to principles deeper than temporary fashions or local preferences. Commissions arrive from as far away as England and Spain, from German principalities and Flemish trading cities, from wealthy merchants in Constantinople who have heard reports of Roman stonework that possesses almost magical qualities of beauty and craftsmanship. Each of these distant projects requires careful coordination of materials and logistics, specialized packaging and transportation arrangements, detailed communications with clients who may never have the opportunity to visit Rome, but who trust in reputation that has spread throughout the civilized world through networks of aristocratic and commercial connection. The challenge of maintaining quality standards while serving an international clientele pushes Marcello toward further innovations in workshop organization and project management, developing systems for documenting design requirements and tracking progress through multiple phases of complex commissions, creating quality control procedures that ensure consistency across all work, regardless of which specific craftsmen are involved in execution, establishing relationships with suppliers and transportation specialists who can support the expanded scope of operations without compromising the standards that have made such expansion possible. These organizational developments represent another form of wealth creation, intellectual capital that could be applied to other types of business operations while also serving as a model for other craftsmen who seek to expand beyond local markets. Yet perhaps the most remarkable aspect of Marcello's success is not its magnitude, but its sustainability. The way that his approach to prosperity has created foundations strong enough to support continued growth and expansion without the constant anxiety that often accompanies rapid financial advancement. His wealth is not dependent upon maintaining favor with any single patron or continuing demand for any particular style of work, but rests instead upon the bedrock of genuine mastery and character that adapts naturally to changing circumstances while maintaining essential integrity and value. Like the ancient Roman aqueducts that continue to function perfectly centuries after their construction, because they were built according to principles that transcend temporary fashions and fluctuations. The training programs that have evolved within Marcello's workshop create another form of legacy that extends his influence far beyond the immediate products of his own hands, establishing educational systems that will continue producing master craftsmen long after his personal involvement has ended, spreading principles of excellence and abundance consciousness throughout the artistic community as graduates establish their own workshops and train their own apprentices. These former students carry with them not just technical skills, but philosophical approaches to work and wealth that transform entire communities, creating networks of excellence that elevate standards throughout the region while generating prosperity for everyone involved in the expanded ecosystem of quality-focused craftsmanship. The innovations in technique and technology that have emerged from Marcello's workshop represent contributions to human knowledge and capability that will influence artistic expression for centuries to come. New methods of stone cutting and joining that enable architectural possibilities previously considered impossible. Surface finishing techniques that create textures and visual effects that seem to bring inanimate stone to life. Approaches to design and proportion that tap into mathematical relationships underlying all forms of natural beauty. These advances become part of the permanent heritage of human creativity, tools and knowledge that will be used by countless future artists and builders to create works that might never have been possible without the foundations laid through one man's commitment to pushing beyond established boundaries in pursuit of excellence. The cultural impact of Marcello's achievements extends beyond immediate artistic influence to affect broader understanding of what individual human potential can accomplish when properly developed and expressed, demonstrating that extraordinary success is not reserved for those born into privileged circumstances, but represents possibilities available to anyone willing to commit completely to the patient development of genuine skill and character. His story becomes inspiration for craftsmen throughout Europe and beyond, proof that excellence creates its own opportunities regardless of starting conditions, that dedication to service and quality eventually attracts recognition and reward that far exceed what calculation or planning could achieve through conventional approaches. As evening settles over the eternal city and the workshop grows quiet, except for the gentle sounds of apprentices carefully cleaning and organizing their tools, preparing for another day of productive effort in service of beauty and excellence, you find yourself standing with Marcello in the courtyard of his expanded facilities, where a fountain of his own design creates a musical backdrop to the peaceful atmosphere that wealth, wisely managed, can create around itself like a garden that enriches everything within its boundaries. The water cascades over carved stone figures that seem to dance in the flickering light of oil lamps, their faces wearing expressions of joy and abundance that reflect the consciousness of their creator. And you realize that you are witnessing more than mere financial success, but the physical manifestation of prosperity, consciousness itself, abundance made visible in stone and water and light, creating an environment that naturally attracts more of the same through the simple power of its existence. The legacy that Marcello is creating extends far beyond the individual pieces that bear his signature, encompassing instead a new understanding of what becomes possible when someone commits completely to excellence in their chosen field, allowing their natural talents to expand and develop through patient practice and unwavering dedication until they become channels for a kind of creative abundance that transforms not only their own lives, but the cultural landscape of their entire era. His workshops have become centers of learning, where the next generation of craftsmen absorb not just technical skills, but prosperity consciousness itself, understanding that true wealth comes not from competing with others for limited resources, but from developing capabilities so superior that demand naturally exceeds supply, creating the kind of seller's market that allows prices to rise to levels that truly reflect the value being provided. The principles that have guided Marcello's rise from struggling craftsman to internationally recognized master represent universal laws of abundance that operate with the same reliability as natural forces, governing the flow of prosperity through human lives with mathematical precision that becomes apparent to those who learn to recognize and align with these deeper patterns of success and fulfillment. These laws transcend specific professions or historical periods, applying equally to merchants and artists, scholars and builders. Anyone who seeks to create genuine value through the generous application of skill and vision in service of something greater than personal ambition alone. The understanding that wealth follows naturally from excellence, that reputation builds through accumulated quality rather than marketing efforts, that sustainable success requires patience and long-term thinking over quick profits and short-term gains, represents wisdom that remains as relevant in distant future centuries as it proved in Marcello's time, demonstrating the eternal nature of principles that govern all forms of prosperity and achievement. The evening air grows cooler as autumn deepens into the approach of winter, and you can smell the distant smoke of hearth fires beginning to warm Roman homes against the changing season, while the sound of Marcello's fountain continues its gentle music that seems to harmonize with the rhythms of your own relaxing breath, creating an atmosphere of perfect peace and contentment that speaks to something deep within your subconscious mind about the nature of true abundance and the pathways that lead naturally toward its realization in your own life. The stone figures carved around the fountain's multiple levels seem to move slightly in the dancing light of oil lamps, their expressions of joy and prosperity appearing to shift and change as shadows play across surfaces that have been shaped with such skill that they seem to possess their own inner life, their own consciousness of beauty and abundance that radiates outward to influence everyone who comes within the sphere of their influence. As you settle even deeper into relaxation, allowing the peaceful sounds and sensations of this perfect Roman evening to permeate every cell of your body and every corner of your consciousness, you begin to understand that Marcello's story is not really about stone carving or even about financial success, but about the universal principles that govern all forms of abundance, the way that patient dedication to excellence eventually creates its own gravitational field, drawing opportunities and recognition and prosperity toward itself with the same natural inevitability that the earth draws falling rain, that flowers draw sunlight from the sky, that rivers draw water from distant mountains toward the endless sea that receives all streams and sends them forth again in new forms through the eternal circulation that sustains all life and growth and possibility. These principles are working in your own life right now, even as you rest and listen, planting seeds of possibility in the fertile darkness of your subconscious mind, preparing to bloom in your waking hours as new insights and opportunities and circumstances that align perfectly with your own natural talents and deepest aspirations for prosperity and fulfillment. The same laws that guided Marcello from obscurity to international recognition operate with equal power in your modern world, creating pathways toward success that become visible to those who approach their work and relationships with the same combination of skill development, patient persistence, generous service, and unwavering commitment to excellence that characterized his remarkable transformation from struggling craftsman to master, whose influence continues to inspire and elevate human consciousness centuries after his death. The sound of water falling gently into stone basins mingles with the distant crackling of fires that warm the Roman night, creating a symphony of abundance that speaks directly to the part of your mind that understands success, not as something to be chased or captured, but as something to be attracted through the magnetic power of excellence and service, the natural result of aligning yourself so completely with your highest capabilities that prosperity has no choice but to flow toward you, like rivers flowing toward the sea, as natural and inevitable as breathing, as gentle and persistent as the falling water that has carved the grandest canyons and nurtured the most beautiful gardens throughout the long history of this ancient and eternal world, where dreams become reality through the patient accumulation of wisdom and skill and generous service to something greater than the narrow boundaries of personal ambition. In the deepening twilight of this perfect summer evening in Renaissance Rome, as the last traces of golden sunlight fade from the western sky and the first stars begin to appear like scattered diamonds against the darkening vault of heaven. You feel yourself sinking deeper and deeper into the most profound relaxation. Your breathing becoming so slow and rhythmic that it seems to match the eternal pulse of the city itself, the ancient heartbeat that has sustained Rome through all the centuries of its existence, connecting you to something timeless and enduring that flows beneath the surface of ordinary consciousness, like an underground river of infinite abundance that feeds all the springs of prosperity and joy that bubble up throughout human experience when conditions are properly prepared to receive them. The story of Marcello's transformation from humble beginnings to extraordinary success becomes a template that your subconscious mind absorbs and integrates, understanding at levels deeper than conscious thought how the same principles can manifest in your own life through whatever forms of creative expression and valuable service feel most natural and fulfilling to your own unique combination of talents and interests and aspirations. Whether your path leads through business or art, technology or healing, education or entertainment, the fundamental laws of abundance remain constant, always responding to genuine excellence with recognition and reward that match the value provided, always flowing toward those who combine skill with service, patience with persistence, humility with confidence in their own worth and capabilities. As sleep approaches like a gentle tide that lifts you effortlessly toward dreams filled with possibilities and inspirations that will continue working throughout the night to align your conscious and subconscious minds with the frequencies of prosperity and success. You carry with you the understanding that abundance is not something external to be acquired, but something internal to be expressed, not something that requires struggle and competition, but something that flows naturally from the generous application of your highest capabilities in service of genuine value creation that enriches not only your own life, but the lives of everyone whose existence intersects with your expanding sphere of positive influence and creative contribution to the ongoing evolution of human consciousness and cultural achievement. The fountain continues its eternal music, water dancing over stone in patterns that have been carved with such precision and artistry that they seem to channel the very essence of abundance itself, creating sounds and movements that speak directly to your subconscious mind about the nature of prosperity and the pathways that lead naturally toward its manifestation in your own experience, teaching your deeper consciousness to recognize and align with the rhythms of success that operate throughout the natural world and human society, connecting you to sources of wisdom and inspiration that will continue guiding your steps toward fulfillment and achievement long after this peaceful evening in ancient Rome fades into the realm of dreams and visions that nurture the seeds of tomorrow's opportunities and accomplishments. In this perfect state of relaxation and receptivity, your mind becomes like the stone that Marcello worked with such skill and devotion, patient and ready to receive the impressions that will shape it into something more beautiful and valuable. Understanding that true wealth begins in consciousness and manifests through aligned action, that prosperity follows naturally from the cultivation of excellence and the generous sharing of unique gifts and capabilities in service of something greater than personal gain alone. creating ripple effects of positive influence that spread outward through communities and generations, leaving permanent contributions to the ongoing human project of transforming this world into a more beautiful, abundant, and harmonious place for all beings to thrive and flourish in accordance with their highest potential and deepest dreams of fulfillment and success. The gentle crackling of distant fires mingles with the musical sound of falling water and the soft whisper of evening breezes through ancient Roman streets, creating a soundscape that carries you deeper and deeper into peaceful rest. Your consciousness settling into the fertile darkness where dreams are born and possibilities take root, where the seeds of prosperity that have been planted through this story of transformation and achievement begin their germination and process that will continue throughout the night and into your waking hours, manifesting as new insights and opportunities and circumstances that align perfectly with your own path toward abundance and fulfillment, guided by the same eternal principles that have governed all forms of genuine success throughout human history, and will continue operating with the same reliability and power throughout all the years and decades and centuries yet to come. As you drift towards sleep on this gentle tide of abundance consciousness, surrounded by the peaceful atmosphere of prosperity and achievement that flows from understanding and aligning with universal principles of success and service, your last conscious thought might be gratitude for the wisdom that has been shared through Marcello's story. Recognition that the same transformational possibilities that guided his remarkable journey from struggling craftsman to internationally celebrated master remain available to you and to everyone who approaches their work and relationships with the same combination of skill development, patient persistence, generous service, and unwavering dedication to excellence that creates magnetic fields of attraction around those who embody these timeless principles of prosperity, consciousness, and abundant living. The story continues to work within your subconscious mind throughout the night, weaving itself into your dreams and aspirations, becoming part of the permanent foundation of beliefs and expectations that will shape your experience of opportunities and achievements in all the days and years to come, connecting you to the eternal flow of abundance that moves through all creation, like light through a crystal, refracting into infinite possibilities for growth and contribution and fulfillment that await your recognition and engagement, ready to manifest in your life through the same natural processes that transformed Marcello's humble workshop into a center of excellence that influenced artistic expression throughout Europe and beyond, leaving legacies of beauty and inspiration that continue enriching human experience centuries after their creation, demonstrating the eternal nature of true prosperity and the permanent value of work performed with love and skill and dedication to something greater than personal ambition alone. In the deepest levels of rest and receptivity, your consciousness merges with the timeless wisdom that flows through all stories of transformation and achievement, understanding that you too are part of this eternal narrative of human potential-seeking expression through individual lives and creative contributions, that your own unique combination of talents and interests and aspirations represents possibilities for abundance and fulfillment that exist nowhere else in the universe, waiting for your recognition and development and generous expression in forms of service that create genuine value for others while generating prosperity and satisfaction for yourself in accordance with natural laws that operate with the same reliability as gravity and magnetism, connecting all beings through invisible networks of mutual benefit and shared evolution toward higher levels of consciousness and creative capability. The gentle sounds of water and fire continue their ancient dialogue throughout the Roman night, carrying their message of abundance and transformation into your dreams and aspirations, nurturing the seeds of prosperity that have been planted through this story of one man's dedication to excellence and service, ensuring that these principles take root in your own consciousness and manifest in your waking life as new opportunities for growth and achievement and contribution that align perfectly with your highest potential and deepest dreams of success and fulfillment. Guided by the same eternal wisdom that has transformed countless lives throughout history and continues operating with infinite patience and power, ready to support your own journey toward abundance and achievement whenever you choose to align your thoughts and actions with these timeless principles of prosperity, consciousness, and generous living that create magnetic attraction for all forms of wealth and success and happiness that flow naturally toward those who understand and embody the eternal laws of abundance and service and love.